As one walks through the halls of St. Joe's Prep, artifacts from the school, St. Joe's College, the Church of the Jesu, and the Catholic Church itself are strewn throughout. From old sports equipment and yearbooks to even the bones of saints, thousands of years of history are displayed. The wide range of relics begs us to look back into a time in history when the Church was building its credibility following persecution in the United States and around the world. Among these artifacts, one relic stands out in particular, the tooth of Pope Urban I. It is one of the oldest relics in the collection, and being a papal relic, it is able to contribute to not just the story of the Church's foundations in the United States, but to the time when the Church itself was young and thriving, where relics were crucial to the Church's success. Leading the Church from 222 to 230 AD, the reign of Pope Urban is often lost to time. Pope Urban's life is rooted in mystery. Much that is known about him and his life has always been disputed. Be it the cause of his death or the place he is buried, there is always ambiguity. However, it is known that Pope Urban is the first pope to have accurate dates to his papacy, and it is speculated that he is one of the first popes to rule in peace times.
You know about this?
Well, I think the big mystery is whether he was martyred at all, because there is a tradition that because he was in the position of pope during the reign of Alexander Severus, who was not a persecutor of Christians. Apparently there was a relatively peaceful time for Christians at this time, so some scholars believe that he died a natural death and was not martyred. Although there is another position. Apparently what had happened was he was credited with having conducted or performed a miracle by praying and toppling an idol. And I guess the pagan worshippers who were in the vicinity who saw him do this were very upset. And that's where he was supposed to have been beaten and tortured before being beheaded. So there's a dual tradition. But in my opinion, I would think that because of the peaceful quality of the reign of Alexander Severus, that probably the Pope this particular Pope, Urban I, did die a natural death.
The Church of the Jesu, constructed as New St. Joe's in 1879, was technically built for St. Joe's College, but its intended purpose was to build a strong community of Catholics in North Philadelphia, a predominantly Irish neighborhood. The church's founder, Father Burchard Villiger, decided it was necessary to purchase relics of various European saints to make a connection from the European Church to the Catholic Irish immigrants. He collected over 300 relics for the church's archive. At one point, the church had enough relics to display a relic a day in the precinct. Many of these relics were certified in the late 18th to early 19th centuries. The relic of the tooth of Pope Urban was certified in 1804 by the subordinates of Fallois de Beaumont, Bishop of Ghent and the first chaplain of Napoleon Bonaparte. It is very unlikely that de Beaumont would be able to correctly date the relic. The Villiger Archives has a relic of Pope Urban's bones as well, also certified in the early 19th century. The church endured great hardships in the city of Philadelphia. Attacks from the Know Nothing Party, like the burning of St. Augustine's Church in 1844, threw the Catholic Church into hiding. By the 1870s, the anti-Catholic movement was placated, and relic use skyrocketed. These relics were used to connect the Catholic Irish immigrants and the community around them to the European church that they used to know.
This is a significant part of Father Villiger's relic collection, as you can see. Father Villiger was a Swiss Jesuit who came over in the 1840s and was connected to St. Joe's very early on. He was 1851, he was our first principal. And Father Villiger, as a Swiss Jesuit, Father Villiger believed that he was one of those European Jesuits who brought a European-style worship to the American church on the East Coast. And so in a lot of ways, the American church is sort of, and churches are kind of very Protestant-like. They're very simple, very plain, very like nice, white, and clean. And these European Jesuits like Villiger come over in the mid-19th century, and they bring a different style of worship. So they build churches like our Church of the Jesu, this beautiful Baroque masterpiece, which is unlike any of the other churches that predated it, pretty much, in the city. And Villiger also is a great believer in bringing worship and bringing people directly to tying people to their worship. So Villiger believes in this European idea that saints, people should be connected to saints, and saints in the church represent kind of the good people that we all aspire to be like. And Villiger believes that by on a daily basis having parishioners, mostly poor, working class Irish parishioners in the 1880s and 90s, having them interact directly with saints, with pieces of bone, with pieces of cloth, that this was a way to tie his parishioners back to the European church, to tie them to something bigger than just the Jesu parish in North Philadelphia.
This is the certificate of authenticity for the relic of Pope St. Urban I. It was certified in 1804 by Fellow de Beaumont, the first minister of Napoleon Bonaparte. You can see the word dentum, that's Latin for tooth. The whole certificate is in Latin, and it has a wax seal on it, and that's the wax seal of the ministers of Fellow de Beaumont.
And so Father Villiger bought these relics. He bought them. He had an agent in Rome, in Italy, and he had his agent buy these relics from the collection of an old Italian family that had come on hard times. And they were desperate for the money, and so they were selling off their relic collection, and Villiger said, the price is good, buy them. I want them here at the Jesu.
But unfortunately, in the Middle Ages, relics became proliferated, and there are stories about enough relics of a particular saint that could fill a room. So obviously, that's not likely to be true, and therefore relics kind of fell, I think, into some question because the authenticity was difficult to determine. I think that relics are, again, a sign of continued respect for martyrs of the church and the early Christians in general. I personally believe that it's a respectable activity, to hold relics of saints and to not worship the saints, of course, but to respect them for what they had done. But I wouldn't place the primary emphasis upon whether the relic is authentic or not, but the faith that it engenders in people who respect the relic.
Father Burchard Villiger was audacious in building this Catholic institution within a tumultuous time. When the property of the now Church of the Jesu was bought in 1868, there was contempt for the northern Philadelphian Irish Catholic community. Father Villiger and his accomplice, Father Barbalin, in building this community, combated xenophobia and anti-Catholic movements and brought education to the oppressed, working-class Irish in the neighborhood. Utilizing the relics and figures like Pope Urban I, Villiger was able to transform the community into the powerful political population it is today.